In the third year of my engagement to Ryan, his charming mistress became pregnant. The rumor quickly spread throughout our social circle, causing me significant embarrassment. During his birthday celebration, Ryan approached me playfully, holding the girl in his arms, and casually stated, "Don't worry, Emily, you'll be Ryan's wife, and you'll raise this child." Everyone around us paused and glanced over. I hesitated, ready to respond, when Mr. Johnson's influential nephew placed his hand on my waist. With a light laugh, he remarked, "Can't raise her? Because she needs to take care of your cousin?" That day, half of the high society realized that Ryan had lost his sanity. In a secluded room at the club, I was about to open the door when I heard voices inside. "Why bring your mistress to a private party? Emily will be here soon in case you forgot," someone said. Ryan lounged back, stretching his long legs, casually lighting a cigarette and replying, "She's coming, so what? If my family weren't so strict about marrying within our social circle, who would be engaged to such a dull woman?" he continued. "I'm so irritated by her, I can't wait for her to end the engagement." Laughter erupted around us. Who in our circle doesn't know Emily is your backup? Whenever you turn around, she's waiting. Do you think bringing your mistress home would make her break off the engagement? How is that possible? At most, Emily would cry and force Ryan to end it, but she would never let go willingly. Ryan flicked some ash from his cigarette and didn't argue further. Those words struck a chord. Ryan and I had grown up together since childhood. Whenever I had a problem, he was the first to support me. After college, our families arranged our engagement. Standing outside, my hand tightly clenched by my side, my eyes began to well up uncontrollably. Ryan looked up and noticed me standing there. He extinguished his cigarette, wrapped his arm around the girl's waist, and lazily leaned back on the sofa. He showed no concern whether I overheard their conversation, displaying no signs of embarrassment over being caught cheating by his fiancée. Luna insisted on joining the fun. The other gentlemen in the room seemed eager for the drama. "Emily, don't blame Ryan. It was my choice to come here. I've never attended such gatherings before, just wanted to see what it's like." Suddenly, she covered her mouth and began to vomit. All eyes turned to her. "Sorry, it wasn't intentional, just feeling a bit sick," Luna muttered. Ryan frowned. "I'll have my assistant take you to the hospital." Before the assistant could react, Luna grabbed Ryan's arm, biting her lip and stammering, "I'm not sick, She looked up at me. "I'm pregnant." The room went silent at her revelation. Ryan didn't seem pleased, his eyes darkening. I suddenly laughed, removed the engagement ring from my finger, and threw it at him. "Ryan, let's end the engagement. We no longer have anything to do with each other." Others exchanged glances. "Emily, don't listen to that woman's nonsense. She's trying to create a rift between you and Ryan to advance herself. If you really decide to call off the engagement, it will be hard to explain to the family." As the ring hit the ground with a sharp sound, I turned and walked away. "What are you waiting for? Go after her." Leo, who had been silent in the room, spoke up. Thinking about the grand wedding Henry had recently hosted for Olivio, Ryan looked toward the corridor, his expression dark and unreadable. In the next moment, he hurried out. After leaving the club, I drove to a bar. The sound of clinking glasses filled the air amid laughter. I consumed one drink after another. Bottles were scattered on the table. For these 3 years of engagement, I had been looking forward to wearing a wedding dress every single day. But as I stood to go to the restroom, my steps felt unsteady, unable to maintain my balance, almost about to have a close encounter with the floor. However, there was no pain, as I had imagined, when I finally opened my eyes. In a suit and tie, Scott appeared before me. Emily. Scott, the true power in Ryan's family, also his uncle, with a firm grip. I remembered the rumors about him outside. In a drunken state, I grabbed his tie and kissed him. Scott's eyes, like dark obsidian, showed shock through the dimness. Maintaining some distance, he asked, "Emily, do you know who I am?" I raised my right hand and delicately traced his throat with my slender, pale fingers. "Scott, you're Scott." As soon as the words left my mouth, dizziness washed over me, and he scooped me up in his arms. Ignoring the surprised gazes around us, Scott carried me into the elevator. In the early morning, I turned over and opened my eyes to meet Scott's intense gaze. Clutching the blanket tightly, I sat up abruptly. Scott raised an eyebrow, remaining silent, and reached for the cigarette box on the bedside table to light one. As he did so, I stared at the bite mark on his collarbone. Could it be that I had done that? "Emily?" Hearing him call my name, I looked up. Yesterday was my first day back in the country, and Emily had been flirtatious with me in public. The events of the night before replayed in my mind like a movie. I had been too drunk at the bar, kissing and biting him. Vaguely, I heard him say, "Emily, I'm not just anyone. Are you sure you want to continue?" I wished I could find a hole to bury myself at the thought of what I had said last night. "Shut up, don't speak, just kiss me." Remembering my words from the previous night, I wanted to disappear. "Scott, I'm sorry about what happened last night." I took off the watch from my wrist and carefully placed it on his bedside table. "I don't have any money with me now, so let this watch be my compensation." After saying that, I realized I was in the wrong and added, "Is that okay?" Scott picked up the watch, examining it, his narrow eyes squinting. "So, Emily thinks that her first time with Scott is worth $1 million watch." My hands clutching the blanket began to sweat. "Emily, since you slept with me, you have to take responsibility." I thought I must have misheard. What? "Marry me, and from now on, you are Ryan's nominal sister-in-law. And I won't cheat." I cautiously watched his expression. Why? Because I hate being taken advantage of. Half an hour later, we exited the marriage registry office. I glanced at the man beside me, feeling surreal. Then, the phone in my bag rang. I checked the caller ID, answered the call, and asked, "What's up?" Ryan thought, "I was still angry about yesterday. He had waited outside your door all night." "Where did you go? Send me your location, I'll come to you, and you better explain things." I directly sent him my location, the address of the marriage registry office. In the bar, Ryan saw this message, and his body tensed. His brother David leaned over to see. His hand holding the glass shook, almost dropping the cup. "What? Emily is going to marry you." As soon as the words were spoken, everyone crowded to see. His lover outside is pregnant. Emily is definitely concerned about how it will affect Ryan's position, so she is directly forcing Ryan to marry her, right? Yesterday, when I saw her throw away the ring, I thought she was serious. But this is it. Everyone knows Emily can't live without Ryan. I never believed she would be willing to call off the wedding without Ryan. What are you going to do? After all, you're in the wrong. Are you really going to marry Emily now? Ryan didn't respond. Instead, he edited a message in the chat box. "Marrying now? Is it too fast?" After sending, he threw his phone aside. He took out a cigarette from the pack, lit it, looking very troubled. A few minutes later, he glanced at the chat box, but there were no new messages. He extinguished the cigarette, picked up his suit jacket from the couch, and left, pushing the door open. At the entrance of the registry office, Scott opened his phone's camera. I was puzzled. What's going on? Yesterday at the bar, many people saw you being affectionate with me, and my assistant's phone is blowing up with calls from reporters. Posting an intimate photo on social media at this time can solve a lot of problems. To confirm, he even opened his assistant's message and showed me. The screenshot sent a second ago had over 100 missed calls. Feeling a bit guilty, I obediently cooperated and took the photo. After taking the picture, Scott bent down to edit the caption on his phone, his slender fingers tapping on the screen. I had his contact info a long time ago. When I opened Twitter, the top 2 posts were his, both with 9 photos. More surprisingly, these 18 photos were almost identical. How many did he actually take? Scott raised his eyebrows. Aren't you going to like them? I quickly liked both posts. On the way back, sitting in the front passenger seat, I stared blankly out the window. Ryan drove past us from the opposite direction, thinking the location meant I was there to get married with him. Right? A few minutes later, Ryan messaged me, "I'm here. Where are you? Why don't I see you?" I directly blocked and deleted his contact. It seemed like the message failed, so he tried messaging me through social media. "You blocked me. Do you know how much courage it took for me to decide to marry you? I'll give you 5 more minutes. After that, I'm leaving immediately." Same old high and mighty attitude, believing I would never leave him. As long as he provided an excuse, I had to immediately back down. I blocked his number and every possible contact method. After doing all this, I felt relieved. Scott stopped the car, got out, and opened the door for me. "Let's go. I'll take you on a honeymoon and see if you like the wedding gift I got you." Wedding gift? When did he even prepare a gift? As our private plane landed, I realized his gift was actually an island. I had the property transferred, so now Moon Island is in your name. Scott had casually given me an island worth over $10 billion. Now I understood why he didn't care about the watch I gave away for $1 million, a mere insult. Walking forward, I saw someone fishing not far away. This is a private island. Why are there others here? Scott glanced over, noticing my doubt. He explained seriously, "These people were living here before I bought the island, and since I don't come here often, I didn't ask them to leave. Moon Island has a simple folk." There was no fast-paced city life here. Everyone lived leisurely. It looked peaceful, tranquil, and very pleasant. "Mr. Ryan, I caught the fish early this morning in anticipation of you bringing your wife. These are fruits I picked from the mountain. Try them. You won't find them anywhere else." Back at our accommodation, carrying a heap of things, I sat on the couch. Snacks and fruits were placed on the table. I tasted them one by one, sensing a gaze on me. Scott was smiling, his dark eyes reflecting shards of light. In the evening after I finished bathing, I realized there was no bathrobe. I mustered up the courage and walked to the door, peering out slightly to ask, "Scott, are you outside? I couldn't find the bathrobe. Can you bring me some clothes?" Just as I finished speaking, I heard some rustling outside as Scott was looking for something. I breathed a sigh of relief, waited behind the door obediently. Scott handed me the bathrobe, and I blushed as I accepted it, sheepishly saying, "Thank you." As I was about to close the door, I noticed he wasn't wearing any clothes, only wrapped in a towel around his lower body, with water droplets on him, probably just finished showering in the adjacent bedroom. The water droplets on his body slid down along his abs, triggering some wild thoughts in my mind. Afraid of a repeat of that night's events, I promptly closed the door. Scott blocked the door with his arm, a hint of amusement in his expression, saying, "Emily, we're already married. You can look at me openly. No need to sneak around." With a face like that and saying such daring things, who could resist? I tossed away the bathrobe, grabbed his wrist, and pulled him into the bathroom, my back pressed against the tiled wall, the cold chill making me shiver. When we emerged from the bathroom, my legs felt like jelly. But Scott was not done. "Darling, the view of Moon Island at night is nice. Would you like to see it?" I leaned against the glass window, our silhouettes reflecting in the dark night. Last night, Scott kept me up until early morning. Just as I had fallen asleep, a phone call woke me up. I reached out from under the blanket, my throat hoarse from shouting all night. "Emily, have you had enough? Blocking all my contacts, I know you're still mad about Luna's pregnancy, but it was an accident." I knew from his tone what his expression must be like at that moment. "Ryan, if you don't understand what I'm saying, look it up in the dictionary." Ryan got so angry on the phone. "Emily, I'm giving you one chance to get married. If you don't seize it, you'll regret it." I hung up the phone and added the unfamiliar number to the blacklist too. After waking up in the afternoon, I suggested going fishing. Scott quickly arranged a boat, and when we arrived, he deftly cast the net. "Have you fished before? You seem very skilled at it." The sunset poured a golden light on the sea, making it appear crimson. "Men are just naturally good at this. No need to learn. You're too good at it. I admire you." Scott awkwardly coughed with his fist clenched. Over the next 2 weeks, we stayed on Moon Island. One day, Scott answered a call by the window. "Got it? Of course, we'll bring your daughter-in-law over," Scott said. Upon hearing about me, I looked up curiously. "Tomorrow is Dad's birthday. He wants us to come back, but I haven't prepared a gift. Why don't we go buy one now?" Scott threw the phone aside, hugging me. "You don't need to prepare a gift. Tell him the news that you're pregnant tomorrow. It'll make him happier than any present." During this month, he was unrestrained. A few days ago, I felt nauseous. After a visit to the nearby hospital, I found out I was pregnant. Mr. Johnson's birthday party was thoroughly organized. When Scott and I arrived, we overheard Ryan and his friends chatting. David, being gossipy, mentioned Scott getting married a month ago. I really want to see who managed to make the always reserved Scott's heart flutter. Ryan remained silent, his face dark. David patted his shoulder and chuckled. Regretting now, aren't you? Emily disappeared without a word for a month. Now you're nervous. Ryan stood at the entrance of the hall, sneering disdainfully. What's there to be nervous about? It's Grandpa's birthday today. She'll come back sooner or later. Don't act all tough. This time when you see Emily, you better sweet talk her nicely, or she'll really be set on divorcing you, and then you'll have nowhere to cry. Do you believe what you're saying? It's been a month since she left me, but when we see each other later, she'll act like nothing happened and we'll make up. Ryan's confidence in his words seemed ridiculous to me. Ryan, drop it. Emily's here. As soon as he heard that, Ryan walked over, leaving his back to me. Scott, wasn't Grandpa supposed to bring your wife along today? When will she arrive? Scott raised an eyebrow, smiling ambiguously, giving Ryan a look as if he were a fool. David interjected, I've heard about Mr. Ryan getting married, and today I finally get to see it firsthand. He nudged Ryan's arm, urging him, Didn't you have something to say to Emily? We'll wait here. You go ahead. He signaled desperately. Ryan snorted and turned away. Emily, don't pay attention to him. In the past month you've been gone, Ryan has been turning the whole town upside down. Worried about what might have happened to you. Just say a few soothing words to him, and he'll be fine. David felt his words weren't strong enough and was about to continue, but I took Scott's hand, smiled faintly, and said, Let's go, honey. Scott was the center of attention wherever he stood, suave and attractive in his suit. The group of friends froze in place as if struck by lightning. If I'm not mistaken, Ryan's little aunt is Emily. How did these two end up together? So, Ryan is self-absorbed, thinking Emily would come back. But in reality, she got married and went on a honeymoon in the past month. It took a whole pack of cigarettes for us to slowly recover. The news of Ryan's glamorous mistress getting pregnant had been circulating in the circle. Mocking words reached our ears. She can really endure it. The mistress is pregnant and still showed up. If it were me, I would have slapped the scumbag in the face and kicked him out. How could Emily bear it? Disappearing for a month was already her limit. Now, she used Mr. Johnson's birthday as another chance to reconcile with Ryan. I don't know what's so special about Ryan that makes her love him so blindly. I don't understand, but I respect it. Those people didn't deliberately lower their voices when they spoke. Ryan naturally heard them. He teasingly walked over with Luna, putting his arm around her as he approached me. Don't worry, my wife will only be you, and you'll take care of the child. Mr. Ryan's words were too much. Openly having an affair and being so brazen about it. They hadn't even married yet, and he was already planning on having the mistress raise the child. If my daughter ever ends up in such a miserable situation, I'd slap her right across the face. Everyone held their breath, looking in this direction. I hesitated for a moment, about to speak, when Scott's arm fell around my waist, chuckling lightly. The entire banquet hall fell silent at his gesture. The guests were all eyes, afraid of missing out on the drama. Ryan released Luna from his embrace, his face dark as he demanded, Scott, what do you mean by this? Emily is my fiancée. Please let her go. Scott's eyes chilled. You two broke off a month ago. I didn't agree, so it stands. Ryan clenched his teeth. She is your little aunt now. We are married, so be careful how you talk to your elders in the future. The whole room gasped. Was their meager gift money worth witnessing such a scene? Ryan tied recent events together in his head, the timeline fitting perfectly. His pupils suddenly contracted. Scott, unflinching, said, Raise your own child. Your little aunt can't help you. Because she's pregnant too, she must nurture your cousin. Scott, it was the first time Ryan dared to speak to Scott in such a tone. Every word felt like it was being forced out through his clenched teeth. I am Emily's fiancé. You're the third party destroying our relationship. Have you no shame? Ryan made a move, but before he could touch Scott, he was kicked out. Before he could cause further chaos, Mr. Johnson intervened. You brat, do you want to become a joke? Don't embarrass us with your antics. Grandpa, he snatched my fiancé. Anger and madness mixed together, he shouted, ignoring his image. If the bodyguards hadn't pulled him away, he would have already been brawling with Scott. Ryan's mother, seeing the old man about to lose his temper, stepped forward and slapped her son. It's because you drove her away. What business is it of your little uncle? You're just a fool. When Emily liked you, you deliberately ignored her. Now she's married and you're making a fool of yourself. How do I have a son like you who brings shame on us both? Go back home and don't go to the company for now. You've humiliated both me and your father." When the bodyguard was escorting him out, Ryan was still swearing. Luna witnessed all this. She hired a large group of bloggers and journalists to spread rumors online. Mr. Ryan had been frantically searching for his fiancée for the past month, worried that something had happened to her. It turned out Emily and Mr. Ryan's uncle got married and returned from a honeymoon. Then they turned the tables on Mr. Ryan, accusing him of cheating. I can only say the upper-class circle is really messy. What? So the truth is like this? I take back the curse I said to Ryan. I wrongly accused you. I knew about Ryan looking for people. It's like he was about to turn the whole city upside down. And at that time, I was wondering who had such good luck. I never expected Emily to be this kind of woman. Emily, are you shameless? If you don't like Ryan, just let go. You're occupying the position of his fiancée and then flirting with someone else. No wonder he went out to date other women, purely because of you infuriating him. I heard that Mr. Ryan doesn't have much say in the company, always being suppressed by his uncle. Now even his fiancée has become someone else's. Such a victim being falsely accused as a scumbag. I looked at the comments under the company's account. Where did Luna get the nerve to do this? She has a whole bunch of dirt on her, no need for investigation, just dig up a handful. 10 minutes later, her chat records with the bloggers were exposed. The netizens who were just supporting her felt used. They started questioning her directly. You were just supporting her, felt used. They started questioning her directly. So you only leak the information that benefits you, huh? You don't mention anything you know about the truth, huh? Luna had done this kind of thing before. Back in college, when we shared a room, many socialite wives came looking to beat her up. Her habit of seducing wealthy men in our school was no secret. In a bar, Ryan's phone kept ringing. He impatiently answered. On the other end of the phone, Luna's voice trembled in fear. Ryan, I suddenly have a stomachache. Can you take me to the hospital? Now there are reporters everywhere downstairs. I can't go down. Ryan hung up without a word. Leo was not surprised at all by how things were unfolding. Get over it. It's no use regretting now. Emily has become your elder. Ryan poured a drink. Did she even call you guys? David shook his head. Why should she call? Anyone who was close to you, she cut off all contact, blocked and deleted them all. Leo saw through his intentions. You deliberately let Luna spread that information online, hoping to provoke Emily to come back to you. Face the reality, Emily really doesn't want you. Ryan couldn't listen to anything now. He grabbed the car keys and headed out. Scott and I went to the pet store and bought an Alaskan. We named it Bingo. When we brought it back, we saw Ryan sitting on the flower bed outside the neighborhood, reeking of alcohol, his hair disheveled, eyes red and lifeless, sitting there like this. Passers-by thought he was a patient who had escaped from a mental hospital. Police arrived, confirmed his identity. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Emily, I looked up. How did Ryan become so haggard in just one day? He apologized with teary eyes, like a child who had done something wrong. I'm sorry, Emily. Please don't leave me. Can we please? I know I was wrong. I took advantage of your love and acted recklessly thinking you would love me forever, but I never thought you could get hurt too. I know I was wrong. Let's get married. I will take care of the child in your belly as my own, okay? Scott lowered his gaze. You want to die, Ryan? I am Emily's true love. In the 3 years we were together, she took care of me so tenderly. If I got drunk, she would make me sober soup. She would come pick me up. She never truly loved you. She was just mad at me, intentionally provoking me. Scott unconsciously tightened his grip on Bingo. Ryan, what you're saying is in the past. From now on, I will only make sober tea for Scott. I will go pick him up from business gatherings when he drinks too much. Ryan stared intently at the dog in Scott's arms. You're holding a dog. Aren't you afraid of dogs anymore? I've always wanted to have a large dog, but Ryan hates dogs, so I never got one. From his words, it seems like Scott is also afraid of dogs. My wife likes it, so I will make myself accept it. Unlike you, making Emily step back for you. Ryan heard that Scott was 3 years older than him. When they were kids, they once went out to play and encountered a large dog. Both of them got bitten. Since then, they have carried that shadow. With a hurt expression, Ryan lowered his head. I can have a dog too, as long as you like it. We can also have one, okay? What I can do, I can also do. I no longer like you. I don't want anything from you. Let's go, dear. Let's go home. Scott passed by with Bingo in his arms, intentionally raising his eyebrows. Let's go, Bingo. Let's go home with Mommy. It was scorching hot at noon in the summer. Ryan stood outside like this, his white shirt soaked with sweat. Passersby couldn't help but mutter, on such a hot day, why is he standing here? Seems like he made his girlfriend angry and is apologizing here. Suddenly, Ryan collapsed, causing an old lady to scream in shock. An ambulance was called immediately. A few hours later, I received a call from Leo, thinking something went wrong with our project. Leo, is there a problem with the project? No, I happened to run into Ryan at the hospital. He's not eating or drinking. He insists on seeing you. He knows this request is unreasonable. He didn't finish the rest. Scott walked over, gesturing for me to give him the phone. Leo, it's me, Scott. I may have just returned to the country, but I also heard about Leo's fiancé marrying Henry. Is Leo feeling some sort of kinship with Ryan? Leo, I'm sorry. After saying that, he hung up. A few days later, my phone notifications surged. I opened the shared live stream. Ryan had turned his largest store into a dog shelter. There goes all his boss demeanor. The shirt he was wearing that day was the same one he wore when he had heat stroke. It was all wrinkled, with sweat stains still visible. His hair was unkempt, and he hadn't shaved. If you hadn't seen him for a few days, you might think he'd gone bankrupt. Emily, look. I'm not afraid of dogs anymore. I've raised many breeds. Please give me another chance, Emily. I know I was wrong. Please don't reject me. Late affection is as cheap as grass. When I loved you, you didn't cherish it. Now that I don't love you, you come back licking. Do you have a masochistic tendency? If you miss the chance, it's gone. Hurry up and change your clothes. With the way you look now, don't mention your ex. No one would be interested in you, no matter who it is. A wave of black-clad bodyguards suddenly burst into the live broadcast room, forcibly shutting it down. Get out! Why did you shut down my live broadcast? Is Scott that lacking in confidence? He knows Emily loves me and is worried that I will win back her heart. That night, Ryan was sent to manage a subsidiary overseas and was not allowed to return to the country. On the night of Luna's confinement, I saw her. She wasn't doing well. Since being criticized by netizens and having a miscarriage due to getting angry, her body had not recovered. Emily, I beg you, tell me where Ryan is, please. I've been looking for him for so long, and I can't find him anywhere. Since you don't want him anymore, just tell me, okay? I frowned. Who let you in? Get out. Emily, please take pity on me and tell me Scott's whereabouts. I'll kneel for you, okay? Scott came in and saw the scene. He stood in front of me and had the security guards escort them out. He covered my ears, not wanting me to hear those unbearable curses. That day was clear without a cloud in sight. Scott waited anxiously outside the delivery room. With a cry, the nurse came out carrying the baby. Hello, your wife has given birth to a daughter. Come and see your child. I opened my eyes and saw the man standing by the bed. Emily, you've been through a lot. I shook my head. Where's the baby? Let me see, is it a boy or a girl? Is she beautiful? Scott nodded and shook his head, confusing me. Then my mother came over holding the baby. Scott has been by your side and hasn't seen the baby yet? She's a girl, and she looks exactly like you did when you were little. I looked up in surprise. Scott handed me a glass of warm water. Have some water first. Your lips are dry. My mother nodded approvingly. At this moment, many families tend to focus on the child and neglect the care of the adults. Have you named the baby yet? Scott nodded. Daisy. I hope she grows up as pure and beautiful as a flower, basking in the sunlight.